Look at this parking lot. Just flat asphalt. A few painted lines. Maybe a guy in a booth taking cash. Now look at the building right next to it. Steel beams. Elevators. Hundreds of workers. Millions of dollars poured into construction. Here's the twist that's going to bug you for the rest of the day. In a lot of cities, that empty parking lot can actually be a better investment than the fancy building beside it. Not because parking is glamorous. Not because people love paying $20 to leave their car somewhere for 2 hours. It's because of something almost nobody thinks about: how cities decide who pays taxes and how much. A parking lot costs almost nothing to build. It costs almost nothing to maintain. And in city after city, it gets taxed at a fraction of what an actual building next door pays, sometimes 80 to 95% less tax per acre, just for doing basically nothing with the land. So while a building owner is stuck paying huge taxes, keeping tenants happy, and fixing broken elevators, the parking lot owner is often just sitting back, collecting cash, and paying almost nothing for the privilege. It's one of the strangest, quietest loopholes hiding inside almost every city on Earth. And once you see it, you'll never look at an empty parking lot the same way again. To understand this, you have to go back to a time when American cities made a decision that quietly reshaped everything. The mid-1900s, when cars went from a luxury to something almost every family had. Cities panicked a little. If everyone was driving now, where was everyone supposed to park? So starting in the 1950s and 60s, city after city passed rules called parking minimums, laws that forced anyone building a store, apartment, or office to also build a certain number of parking spaces alongside it. Want to open a small restaurant? Better bulldoze space for 20 cars first, whether you need it or not. This sounds harmless. It wasn't. These rules quietly trained cities to treat empty asphalt as just a normal, expected part of a building, not a wasted opportunity. And once that mindset took hold, something sneaky happened in how property taxes got calculated. See, most cities tax property based on what's built on the land: buildings, tenants, activity. A parking lot has none of that. It's just dirt with pavement on top. So when tax time comes around, a parking lot gets valued incredibly low compared to the tower next door, even though they might be sitting on the exact same size piece of land, in the exact same location. That created a bizarre, backwards incentive that's still baked into cities today. If you own valuable land, sometimes the smartest financial move isn't to build something amazing on it. It's to knock down whatever's there, pave it flat, rent out parking spaces for cheap, and pay almost nothing in tax while you wait. Investors even have a nickname for this strategy: a covered land play. You're not really running a parking business, you're land banking. You let parking cover your basic costs while the land itself quietly grows more valuable underneath you, until someday, when the timing's right, you sell it off or build something bigger. One urban researcher named Donald Shoup spent decades studying this exact problem. He wrote an entire 700-plus page book about it, bluntly titled The High Cost of Free Parking, and his big point was simple: parking isn't actually free. Somebody always pays for it. Usually it's the city, in the form of lost tax revenue and wasted land that could have been homes, shops, or parks instead. So this wasn't some evil master plan. It was thousands of small, boring decisions, one parking minimum here, one tax rule there, that quietly added up into a system where doing less with valuable land could pay off more than doing more with it. Here's where this stops being a boring tax story and starts getting genuinely wild. Take Hartford, Connecticut. Since 1960, the number of parking spaces in its downtown has exploded by over 300%, from 15,000 spaces to 46,000. That's not because Hartford suddenly needed 3 times more parking. It's because tearing down buildings and replacing them with parking lots quietly became one of the most financially rational things a landowner could do. Picture that for a second. A city doesn't get hollowed out by some dramatic disaster. It gets hollowed out one quiet decision at a time: a shop here, an old apartment building there, each one replaced with flat, empty asphalt, because the tax bill said, yes, do this. And it's not just Hartford. This exact pattern has played out in downtowns across the U.S., Cincinnati, Milwaukee, dozens of others, where cranes are now going up on land that was, for decades, just parking. Empty. Waiting. Sometimes for years. Sometimes for decades. Quietly earning its owner money, while contributing almost nothing back to the city around it. Here's a number that should make your jaw drop. Researchers have calculated that adding a single parking space to a new apartment building can push up the rent by over $200 a month for every single tenant, whether they own a car or not. You could be someone who bikes everywhere, who's never driven a day in your life, and you're still quietly paying for parking spaces you'll never use. So, why hasn't every city fixed this already? Some are trying. A growing number of cities have started scrapping parking minimums altogether, meaning developers can finally build without being forced to bulldoze space for cars first. Others are experimenting with something called a land value tax, a totally different way of taxing property that charges owners based on how valuable the land is, not what's built on it. Under a system like that, an empty parking lot in a prime downtown location gets taxed just as hard as the office tower next door, which instantly kills the financial magic trick that made sitting on empty land so profitable in the first place. Cities that have leaned into this, cutting parking mandates, encouraging actual buildings instead of asphalt, are starting to see something remarkable. More housing, more shops, more tax revenue, and yes, believe it or not, less traffic congestion overall. Because it turns out that when you stop mandating parking everywhere, fewer people feel like they need a car to survive in that neighborhood. So next time you walk past a big, mostly empty parking lot sitting in the middle of a busy downtown, you're not looking at wasted space. You're looking at somebody's investment strategy, one that, for decades, cities accidentally paid people to use. A parking lot isn't just a place to leave your car. In a lot of cities, it's one of the sneakiest, most profitable pieces of real estate you'll ever walk across, and most people will never even notice. If your brain just got a little bit rewired watching this, smash that like button and subscribe. There's a lot more hiding in plain sight in the cities you walk through every day.